This podcast proudly acknowledges the Yagara and Turrbal people of Mianjin.
Welcome back to Brisbados, the show where we explore the stories, streets and soul of Brisbane in sunny Queensland as it grows and changes before our eyes. In this episode, we're heading to one of the city's most storied and spirited suburbs, West End. Renowned for its mix of cultures, artists, activists and long-time locals, West End has always been a place where identity and community are deeply felt. If you're from Brisbane, West End is somewhere that you flock to for a drink, for the market, or just to feel belonging. But like much of Brisbane, it's also a place facing rapid development and transformation over the span of barely half a decade. To help us understand what makes West End special and what's at stake as it changes, I spoke with Maeve Lejeune, creator of the Houses of West End project and part of the West End Community Association, a voluntary organisation dedicated to keeping West End's character alive. Maeve grew up in the area after her parents bought there in the 80s and has been documenting the character of its homes and the people who've lived in them, a kind of living archive of the suburb's personality before and after the cranes arrived. We talk about growing up in West End before 2018, what makes the area feel like home, and how its identity is shifting. Also, a heads up that there is a lot of giggling in this episode. I hadn't seen Maeve in ages, so I was stoked to see her, and everything she said, I seem to have just laughed along. So please excuse that. And also, I've just moved to Coorparoo, which apparently is under a very popular flight path. So yeah, there's some planes in this one. Here's a conversation. This podcast is about Brisbane and the different really unique parts of it, so that people coming here as well as people from here can hear about these places and these cultures that make them feel interested as well as proud. I feel West End is a place that I feel proud of in Brisbane. Don't you think?
It's definitely the best suburb in Brisbane.
Yeah.
I feel like that's, I'm highly subjective, but I do say that objectively as well. I think most people would say that there is something special about it, and people that have lived there 10 years ago still love to come back and have their stories of, living in a share house or working there or visiting Boundary Street and
the 199,
the
the
199
ferry, Cat, there's the transport of it all.
You get the services, the facilities. No, it is a very special suburb. So, I grew up in West End. I was born in a house in West End, like a classic home birth.
A West End tragic, as you said.
A West End tragic. And I've had many jobs there. I work there currently.
West End is your brand, it's your personality, it's what you know and love.
Yeah.
You could write a book. Actually,
Sometimes
you genuinely could.
I know. I just don't have the time. But I often do feel embarrassed about how much I do come back to it. It is that classic small town thing where people grow up and they move to a big city and they're so ashamed of their small town. And I guess so in a way I feel a sense of that, but I also don't want to quit it. I can't quit it.
You can't.
So it's very contradictory.
Yeah. But tell me, and I think those feelings are natural and so wonderful too. But tell me about Houses of West End.
Okay.
So this is the first thing that I heard out of school, maybe when we were 20 or something, right?
Yeah.
Or 8, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe younger.
I think I was fresh out of uni. My undergrad, I did design, and in our final, assessment, we had to come up with a portfolio. And at the time, I was just so interested in, I had quite a few different projects that I wanted to do, and that's been something that I find difficult. Is there's so many things I want to do, but I just don't have the time. And one of them was Houses of West End, and at that point in time it just made the most sense to pursue. So I essentially noticed that houses were being knocked down and
Right.
randomly burnt down in suspicious fires. And
Really?
yeah, like happened so many times.
Really?
Yeah, because developers want to develop and they can't just knock down a
Don't
heritage
tell me
listed house.
that.
Like,
Really?
Yeah,
It was the developers.
of course. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't come for me.
Hey, I don't know if I'm
But,
gonna
yeah.
get to their
But
ears,
definitely,
but
there
cool.
have definitely been suspicious fires,
Yeah,
like
right.
multiple suspicious fires.
And so you noticed that and were like, fuck, we've got to preserve.
Yeah, I
this.
thought I'll just start documenting the houses that are special to me first. So I think
Sure.
the first one I did was maybe for my auntie, because I think it was her birthday coming up. So I thought
Right.
I'll just draw hers, and then I guess my parents, because they still live in West End, and yeah,
Those them off.
I did their house and my nana's, and then like friends, and then from there people started commissioning me, and that was
Yeah.
terrifying because like I had no idea how much to charge. I had no idea what this was worth, and also how long things would take, and I've never been very good at, like, I would never make a business plan or a spreadsheet to figure out whether I'm ever making a profit. Like, I just
Yeah.
hope for the best.
Which is so West End of you.
I guess.
Like OG West End, not current West End, I imagine.
Yeah.
It's probably all about the P&L.
Making the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I remember your Instagram videos, where you'd be drawing and you'd be videoing it. And
Oh, yeah.
do you remember that?
Like a time lapse kind of
time
style.
lapse. Yeah.
I mean, everyone just we love a time lapse.
We do.
And watching somebody drawing is very satisfying.
Yes, it was
And,
great.
yeah,
You should do a YouTube channel.
yeah, but I'm so slack these days at doing it at all.
Don't have time,
Like
don't have time.
I can't remember the last time I posted, and these days I'm still doing drawing.
You taking
but
commissions?
really slowly.
Yeah.
I might do like 2 or 3 a year,
Wow, I love
and
that.
that's unless somebody is like, I need it for this date, and then I
Yeah.
can generally get it done in whatever time
Yeah,
they need it. But
yeah.
but often you find is like people love the idea and they're like, whenever you can get it to me, and I'm like, no, you must tell me or it will be years.
What's your process? Because you know what I loved, and I've got a tea towel and some postcards from you from the Western markets and things that I've bought. They're just such good gifts as well, and
No, truly, and it is so special to hear people send them far and wide.
Yeah.
And like they do make for good presents because, as I said, like everyone has some connection to West End. Whether they
Yeah.
work there, they know someone there, they live there,
yeah,
they visited there.
you capture
They-
the
yeah.
essence so well. Like, I don't know if it's because I know that you're from there or something, but there's something so sentimental about it where I feel emotional when I see, like, especially when it says, like, I think you had, Gemma's house or Christy's house or whoever. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's a really genius idea, I think, to draw colour in like that, which details to keep and which not, and then call it that person's house.
I do enjoy it. I think it's like it's the kind of thing that once I'm doing it and I'm in
The zone.
I'm in the zone or on a
Yeah.
roll with doing a few, I'm like, oh, that's right. I do love this, and I love sharing the stories. I love it when people like invite me into their homes and I get to have a sticky beak inside
that's
their
cool.
homes
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, I think it's worthwhile, and it'll probably be a lifelong thing that I just do, maybe increasingly slowly over time. But I don't think I'll ever like give it up.
Yeah.
But for now, it's not a priority, and it takes a big toll on my body. And
True.
to be honest,
Slouching?
like squeezing a pen tight and crouching over, like
True.
being hunched over it.
Yeah.
It really wrecks my neck.
Yeah. I thought that with DJing, like, I don't know how people are doing that for like 3 hours sometimes. They're just,
true.
like,
They are
looking
bent
down. It's
over.
really, anyway.
Yeah.
Cool. And you mentioned the developers suspiciously being around as houses were burning down. What do you think has happened there with West End about, like, how would you articulate the vibe of it when you were growing up and, starting your life, and where it's at now? Like, what's happened? What are the differences? How would you have
It was
described it?
all I knew. Like, I truly did not know a life or a world outside of West End. Like, when I got, well, I was so slow to get my learners and then my license because there was
Because you
truly
lived in
no
West
reason to leave, and to accumulate 100 hours by driving 5 minutes to my friend George's house and then
You
5
do the
minutes
maths.
back. Like, then great, I've done 10 minutes on my logbook. Like, it was just not even worth writing down.
Yeah.
Then it also spanned over going to Europe and
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
like
right,
it
right.
spanned over like
Gap
5
years.
years because I lived in West End. It took a really long time.
It takes 5 years. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, like life was West End, and I didn't know any other suburbs, or didn't. I guess also my mind wasn't inquisitive to other suburbs. I didn't need to know.
You didn't need to know
anywhere else. Yeah, and
but that's the beauty of it.
that was the beauty.
Yeah.
And we walked everywhere. Like, I walked to preschool, I walked to primary school, I then walked a bit further to high school.
Yeah.
And then I even went to uni in South Bank and I walked there.
Yeah,
So
right.
like I also just like,
Got your steps in, just
Yeah.
not your hours.
and I guess that was by design, maybe making sure that my life didn't have to go that much
Yeah.
further than the bubble because
Yeah.
it was safe.
But also, I mean, in terms of community, like, that is such a great form of wellness, of having everything in your neighborhood walkable.
Yeah.
Makes for a good life, you know? Like, maybe
Oh.
you're not going everywhere and driving out, but there must be a part of that that's a really great town planning choice. Because there's the rest of Brisbane has a highway going through it.
Yeah,
But West
yeah.
End is so,
It is definitely one of the
You
more
know?
walkable suburbs.
yeah, and always has been. It's not like newly walkable.
Yeah, yeah. I do definitely get the shits though when I go to the markets on Saturday and just like how bad the traffic is around there, and it's
Yeah.
but then that's me being like but also like I'm such a hypocrite because I have to drive into the suburb to go
To go
but
now,
I'll park
yeah.
at my parents and then walk in.
So you're still a local.
Yeah, at least can
You get street
pretend
parking
to be.
at your parents.
Yeah.
That's good.
I don't want anyone in
No,
the
no,
council
you
to
can't,
come
you
to
can't.
me, but I registered my
You-
car to there.
No, and also, yeah, you can't say which street it's on because then people will go.
Well, that was a bit of a hack because I work at West End State School.
Oh, fab.
And the parking is really terrible. So,
Yeah.
like, it is lucky having my parents nearby.
Yeah, totally. So what happened next? The other thing is, sorry, you know, people talk about it being like it was quite a hippie kind of place, just meaning that it was fairly progressive, it was relaxed, it was quirky, it was where Brisbane's quirky personas were,
Yeah.
which Brisbane has a lot of,
Yeah.
but a lot of it was humbugging around West End, you know, do you remember Rapture? And
Still there.
the original borough, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get
all
what you're
that,
saying.
yeah.
Like, it is a really interesting suburb in that, like, when my parents bought their house for barely nothing at all,
Yeah.
in maybe the mid 80s or late 80s,
Mm.
they bought it because it was really cheap there. It had a really high crime rate. No one wanted to live there. In fact, they'd tell people they'd bought there, and people would say like, "Oh my God, are you serious? Are you sure?"
Yeah.
But then that's funny too, because comparatively, like, my partner's parents did pretty much the same thing, but in Paddington, and people used to say like, "You're
Wow.
crazy. Why are you buying there?"
Oh.
And it's just
I didn't know that
so-
about Paddington.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
know.
the history of Paddington.
I don't really either.
Yeah,
But
we were talking earlier about the colonial history of West End and the Boundary Street and what that means, and the super prominent First Nations population there historically, like that makes up such a big part of the culture as well, which is probably an element of why it was so welcoming and free. in
it
a
was
way as
already
well.
like a bit of a like motley crew of different groups of possibly like marginalized people. Like, it was First Nations people as well as artists, and I'm not sure at that time, but maybe there were even then quite a few renters.
But yeah. Yeah.
People on sort of like the fringes of society, I
Yeah.
suppose you'd say.
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably what attracted my mum and dad. Like, my mum's definitely pretty
Relates
like
to
off center. Like, she was an actor and wanted to be an actor, but then accidentally got pregnant and then realized that was going to be pretty hard.
Right.
But I guess she probably was like, who cares? Like, yeah, it might be a bit rough. But
we're not the first people to do this.
no, and it'll mean that it's a more interesting place to live, and that's sort of what they sought. So it kind of happened by accident, but I think also there was intention behind it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was great. Like as I said, like I got to walk to school and like got to know neighbors and like had sort of surrogate grandparents from neighbors, and yeah, really special things. I'm sure those things happen out in other suburbs.
No, but there's a community.
Yeah.
That must be the vibe of West End, though. That's probably it, is how community oriented it felt.
Definitely,
You know?
definitely.
You wanted to be there because it was welcoming.
Yeah. And like going to school there, like I never questioned how culturally diverse it was.
Yeah, you just grew up with it.
Yeah, and that like even just like our schoolhouse names were named after like Aboriginal names for animals, and I think it was probably one of the first schools that ever did that. West End, yeah.
Wow.
And it's I suppose those little acts of recognizing history and celebrating it that make a place special, and then people know, okay, that's the
standard.
culture.
Yeah,
that's
totally
what I'm sort of part of.
Yeah.
But like going to school, like you were saying, because we went to school together, high school, I kind of was a bit embarrassed about growing up in West End, like being a local area kid. That maybe was one thing. I guess it was good in that I didn't have to prove myself, but I also figured like people just thought like devalued us a little bit because they just thought,
look who's laughing
now. They just got in because they live in the area.
Yeah.
But,
and for context, that's because we went to a merit-based school that was in the catchment of West End. So the West End State School,
so they had to let us in.
Could just go.
Yeah.
And then if you lived elsewhere, it was a public school but merit-based. So you'd have to get in on academic, music, or sporting merit. So yeah, I guess there was that divide. But hey, your house prices are much higher than ours.
But at the time in high school, like I think I just thought
something about being
it wasn't considered cool to be in West End. Like it was considered to be a bit weird, I think, in high school. It wasn't until uni that people started to think, I want to move there because that's where things are happening, like where there's live music and blah blah blah. But those things weren't really important to us in high school. And then post high school, all my like closest friends moved out of the area. Like everyone went overseas or went to Melbourne or went to Sydney. And like kind of not left me behind, but went on to do other things. And so I did quite kind of feel a bit alienated from West End, because I felt like then so many people were moving in because they were like, this is a cool area, but they had their friends and they like were hanging out, whereas I was like, I've got
suddenly
firstly like no one to hang out with, but secondly like I live here, like I don't go to the bars and go to the cafes. Like it's not, it's more like it's a functional thing for me here.
It's not a like visitor touristy thing.
Totally. And also like if I go out or like do something fun, like I'm going back to my parents' house, like I'm not going back to a place that I'm living with housemates. It's not it wasn't a cool time
thing
for me. So that's always been interesting, seeing other people's lens of West End and being like, oh my god, West End's so cool.
Because that's what it was like. That just made me think to go to West End was like you had the people who live there and then you had the tourists. That's how it felt, especially because we went to the same school, and then I had friends who had grown up there specifically, and then I was one of those people moving in. Like I moved to Jumna Street. And
no shade on those people. I get
it's
it.
Just
they
so
were attracted to the area for all those reasons, but for me I was like,
but we were tourists.
That's what it is. Yeah.
I wanted to know also, as people started coming in, that probably marked a key moment for West End, as I guess everyone kind of started clocking on to how close it was to the city, how livable it was, how, walkable and everything you were saying, but also how close to the water it was. And so we started seeing developments and everything, buildings and all that. shopping malls, all of that kind of thing, which is crazy when you're
Yeah.
living somewhere, growing up somewhere that has that history you were describing earlier. What was your involvement, or has been your involvement in that development stage? Because I remember you being, not that we had any big conversations about it, but I remember you having an opinion and just being an OG West End person, being like, actually, we want to keep, if you do this, you're bringing in more tourists, essentially, and we need to keep our vibe.
Yeah, well, it's complex for sure. It is insane how much more built up it got in the span of, 5 years, maybe 10 years.
Because we're talking like 2019 to now, really.
Yeah.
2018 maybe.
Yeah, and there's so many layers. I think it's been, obviously, different levels of government have allowed for developers to build things that shouldn't have been built, like whether they're in flood zones or they actually exceed the neighborhood height limit. Like, developers did cheeky things like buy extra bits of pavement in order to have more square meterage, at their base level, so they could build 2 extra levels.
Wow.
Like, they then just owned a bit more of the pavement to build up further. And there's there's been so many different local planning things that have been either changed or made more lax for certain developers.
How do you know this? Like, what did you research it, or were you?
I, for the past few years, have been on the board of the West End Community Association, and they have a long history, or semi-long, of challenging different developments.
Right.
Like taking them to court and sometimes winning and sometimes losing. And so I guess it was like through that, and maybe also like my mum's has been quite engaged and has had friends that have been quite in the know. So it's like hearing conversations here and there, but also being aware of like proposed changes to these things. Like there's the local planning instrument. Stephen Miles approved this change to it, which is just going to lead to more and more developments. Along Montague Road and like down near the Riverside Drive. And it's nuts that it's happening in a place that is so flood affected. And also they're not advertising to people that are buying apartments and stuff, like how they're just not being fully transparent in how much it might affect them if it floods. And so I think people moving into the area and just not realizing.
Right, that West End's a flood zone, or that
I guess they know that, and they know, they see flood maps, but they don't maybe think about the actual practicalities of like if their apartment floods, like, and they're on the 30th floor, like their lift might be out of action for weeks and weeks as they get power back up and running.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know, 30 floors, maybe that's crazy height, I don't know.
No, we had that at my work, being in the city, because it's, originally Frogs Hollow, that law, the Brisbane law, LORE. And so it always floods a little bit, and
it's like meant to be a creek.
Yeah, exactly. Meant to be a creek attached to the river. The river's right there, and instead it's concrete. And so it floods, and then even when the cyclone happened, we were preparing to be out of action for a couple of weeks, and that wasn't even going to be a big flooding event. So, anyway, also say, I guess people don't realize what the effects are of climate change when you're floods in a flood zone. When you're in an apartment building, you probably think you're going to be okay if you're not in a Queenslander, but
it's just that thing of, like you said, is like there's the West End vibe and developers are cashing in on that being popular,
which is why people come.
But then of course it does change
what happens to that vibe.
It changes the vibe, but also it's just like there is not the infrastructure to support that many people. Like the schools are at absolute capacity and they need to build another one, and it's nuts that they haven't. And those have flow-on effects, like that changes the culture of a school, and then how much teachers want to be there and how good the education is, and then do people want to
NAPLAN.
All of a sudden it just like spins out of control, where like then kids aren't getting the support they need. It's like, you know, like,
there are probably various perspectives on that, and don't
Yeah.
want to cause
Oh,
a
yeah.
ruckus.
No,
but
and people
also,
saying that there needs to be density in those inner city areas, and I get that.
Is that right?
Yeah. You know, if we solve the housing crisis, there needs to be.
Well, that's right.
But
Apartments.
the thing is, they're not affordable for
Yes.
lower income people,
Yeah.
and I think also is like, well, firstly they started building all these buildings, not anticipating that families would move in. I think they just thought these will be for young professionals, and that's why then there wasn't pressure from governments for them to have to contribute money to, say, schools, or like to increasing the infrastructure to support this influx of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that hasn't happened. Like, families have moved in and they're living in teeny cramped apartments, or these apartments are empty and they're not renting them out or selling them because they're not affordable.
Yeah.
So it's just a lie, I think, to be saying that we need to build these buildings to solve the housing crisis. It's not gonna.
That's not quite
do
what's
it.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is that stuff you work on through the board you're on?
Yeah, I mean, mostly I just help with running the event, or like designing stuff for the Quilpa Derby,
Oh,
which
cool.
is an amazing West End event.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, do you not know about the Quilpa Derby?
The rollerblading one?
Yeah.
I haven't like seen anything about it for yonks, I feel, but
Yeah, it had a
Remind
bit of
me.
a hiatus.
oh,
in,
okay. I
in
thought
the
it was just my
pandemic.
feed, but
No,
yeah, okay, it was
maybe,
possibly.
It definitely was last year, and it was the year after. Year before. But then I think before that it had happened for a few years.
Yeah.
It's like a pretty full-on event to organise.
Yeah.
It's like closing off Boundary
Streets.
Street for more than 5 hours, and it's like costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And because it's run by WECA, who's a all volunteer run not-for-profit.
Yeah. What is it? Like if
Yeah.
we don't know.
Basically, usually in September, often on Father's Day, but not always. They would close off Boundary Street from like the top of, underneath the Dornoch Terrace Bridge for people to ride down the street on their bikes, scooters, skateboards, anything with wheels, or just walking.
Oh, cool.
Obviously to celebrate active transport. And everyone like dresses up and they make floats, and it's just
So
like
cool.
honestly the best day of the year.
Yeah.
It's so fun, and in the past few years they've also so everyone rides down and then they get to sort of the Vulture Street, Boundary Street intersection.
Yeah.
And then once everyone's past that, the road from there is opened back up, but then between like Russell Street and Vulture Street it's closed off for a few hours for like kids to do races. They used to do squid races where like the local seafood shop would supply squids and people would put them in their mouth, and then it'd be like a relay and they'd swap them in each
That's so
people's
specific.
mouth. Yeah, I know. And martini races, but I don't think they've have been doing that so much. But
That's awesome.
in the past few years there's been like a skateboard
cool.
half pipe set up, and like all these skaters from I don't know, they must be from all over, but I think it's coordinated by this store called Middle Store,
Oh yeah.
which is now on Vulture Street. They like organise that, and it's amazing. Like the kids are obsessed with, like they just watch for hours that happening, and I think they also like are allowed to like go in and try, but yeah, for the most part it's like legitimate skateboarders who are doing tricks and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And there's like live music and speeches and prizes, and last year there was a cute little dog show. It was
That's it's
just incredibly wholesome.
Yeah. And fun.
And not trying too hard, really.
Yeah.
Then it's the like bare bones of it is just like we're reclaiming the street and we're having a street party. And everyone's welcome. They used to do this thing called the Beggars Banquet afterwards, where they'd set up tables and you would nominate yourself to be a host, and you'd bring food and like a full like cutlery dinner set, and then there would be beggars that would nominate themselves, and it'd basically be like random people that would go to like be assigned a table, and so then they'd meet a whole bunch of new people and you'd feed them, and like it would have people like walking past, like maybe like rough sleepers and stuff walking past, and like they would participate and you'd feed them, and like it was just, you know, it was all obviously set up, but it also all happened kind of organically. Yeah.
Wow, September.
Yeah, the Beggars Banquet I don't think it'll run again, like definitely not this year. And if not, like in future years, I hope it comes back, but it just takes so much volunteer power.
Yeah.
That, not everybody can
Okay.
commit to.
Yeah, I wonder how WECA will react if Queensland Tourism or someone wants to, like, I don't know, partner or purchase or like promote this as a official kind of event,
Oh yeah. Well, there was a year where it was like, I think maybe somebody on the board approached Brisbane Festival about it being part of that, but then it kind of became clear that, like, if it was advertised in something like that, there would be thousands of people. And really, it's like the best part about it is that it is kind of like locals only. No, well, and now I've just absolutely fucked that by talking about this on this super famous podcast.
Yes, this viral podcast.
Yeah, this viral podcast. Everyone's going to come in droves. No, but like people from outside do come.
Everyone's welcome. But of course,
they don't.
Yeah,
come.
It's a community event.
Yeah, and
that's fair.
yeah, but yeah, it's good. You'll have to come sometime. Last year it was really nice. My friend Georgia, who I grew up in West End with, but who ditched me for Melbourne.
Sydney.
Sydney.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, my sister ditched me for
sorry.
Melbourne. Sorry, yeah. Sorry, my friend ditched me for Sydney. Same difference.
Same.
Elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she just happened to come back. I think it was her mum's birthday or something, and she was there, and she'd never even been to one, which was really funny. Like growing up, she would have been around, but
because it's
just
been
never
there
made
forever.
it. Yeah, definitely since I was like in grade 9 or so
yeah.
like 2009.
Yeah, I remember
Maybe
hearing
even
about
younger.
it, but just thinking, oh, that's a West End thing. Like I'm literally just by way of suburb, I just cannot. Not that I'm not welcome, but let West End have their thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you would feel a little bit like an outsider, but to be honest,
like,
I feel like that too. And I don't
know
know that.
That's actually crazy because I have had moments with you walking around West End if we've caught up over the years, and you're just like, oh hey, oh hey, oh hey, oh hey. every single person. There's no.
It doesn't happen so often these days.
Oh,
truly, yeah.
Maybe that's to do with age, turning 30.
Maybe. No, it's, people leave, and it definitely does still happen. And these days, because I'm working at the school, it's like now it's more I have to try to avoid seeing children, and maybe I avoid walking around there that much as well.
Yeah, awesome. All right, I think that's a wrap.
Right. Okay.
What do you think? Are you grinning? I'm grinning.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. We always went to Quantan.